You come across somebody you've never met before, but you feel like you've known them for a really long time, and then, boom, they're out of your life. Is that something to be grateful for? It's a happy Thanksgiving Day edition of this, the Gratitude Journal podcast.
This is the Gratitude Journal podcast.
Oh, yeah, I can smell the turkey. It's almost done. The dressing lumped onto the plate. Brussels sprouts, mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce, rolls, butter. Okay, I'm not really smelling any of that because we're not cooking here today. It's Matthew here, and hey, first, happy Thanksgiving to you. It is probably the day that you would expect Matthew, your friendly neighborhood host of the Gratitude Journal podcast, to perform another gratitude episode because this is the day for gratitude, right? But I'm reminded as I churned through my newspapers this morning that, this quest to be grateful is something that should happen each and every day. And even though this podcast is far from something that's been around every day, that is the overall goal and the goal that I need to continue to remind myself about as to why this podcast exists. And it exists in order to hopefully have you and I share different ways, sometimes apparent, sometimes not, where we can be grateful and thankful for the things that are around us. And as I said to someone the other day, my goal, even though I'm not successful, is to strive for things less and be content with the things that I have. And while that philosophically seems like an easy venture, it certainly is not, because I lately have kind of been in this kind of funk, and I really can't put my finger on it per se, but it's almost like, not that I have any money to buy anything, but I feel like I've been surfing to buy things, even though I haven't made the purchases, because it would inject a brief amount of thrill knowing that, the Amazon truck or, USPS is going to show up with a package, and that's going to satisfy me for about 10 minutes. And then I'm going to move on to something else. And I sometimes think, isn't that in some way, shape, or form really the goal, journey, quest to try to avoid, because we tend to do it so much? That's what I think. At least that's what I pondered on my walk. So that is what I like to continually remind myself about this particular podcast. I thought about this on my walk earlier this morning after I got up pretty early. I've been getting up relatively early, like in the 5:15 range. One, in order to give myself appropriate time to, prepare for my day. And by preparing for my day, I mean having my cup of coffee and reading my newspapers. Now, I have told myself, maybe you feel this way too, I spend a little bit too much time doing that, because sometimes I'll look up and it'll be like 10 till 7, and I've been trying to do my stationary bike ride in the morning as opposed to doing it in the evening. And so I have to allow 30 minutes for that, and then I have to shower, and then I have to try to meditate, even though I haven't been super successful. By the time that all takes shape, it's going to 8 o'clock, and then it's really time to start my real job. And really, I'm on the clock then. So it's been kind of a struggle even getting up at, say 5:15 to get all the things done that I need to get done. But this morning, I didn't have to be in the studio to do any work per se. And so this allowed me some time to go on my walk. And it was here in Northeast Ohio, a very brisk, chilly, slightly breezy, but very overcast morning. But I kind of didn't mind that, because the leaves, for the most part, are down off of the trees. the big truck, the big sucker-upper truck that comes along and, scoops up the leaves to turn it into mulch. They've already been through, although I think they came a little early this year. And I know this is going to sound weird. I kind of like bare trees. You know what I mean? I liked bare trees even when I, years ago, as a youngster, bought the Bare Trees album from Fleetwood Mac, and I would kind of stare at this kind of bare tree on the album cover with the fog kind of shrouding it. And it was kind of mystical to me. I really liked it. So I don't mind taking a morning walk in the breeze, even when it's chilly, amongst overcast skies and bare limbs, because I hopefully can find something valuable and worthwhile out of that. So before I go any further, just let me say happy Thanksgiving to everybody who listens or downloads or whatever they do, with this podcast. So what am I grateful for? Well, I would say number one, I'm grateful for the ongoing cancer journey that Donna and I have been on, and the fact that she has been relatively, after effect free. I mean, aside from a little bit of skin irritation and me, trying to get her on a regular basis to a couple of times a day apply some aloe vera, gel to help ward that off, she basically said to me the other day, I really don't feel too bad. And I said, well, this is great, because she's a little bit more than halfway through. I think she has 9 more sessions left. Then she'll take kind of like an anti-estrogen pill for the next 5 years and have some follow-up appointments over the next couple of years. But for the most part, we really navigated this in such a way that there could have been a lot of bad things, as anyone with breast cancer knows. And, just in the shorter time of this journey, I've run across several women who have shared their experiences, and, they had some pretty arduous tasks ahead of them. And so from the standpoint that it was stage 1B, that there was no lymph node interaction, that margins were clear, and that she did not have to do chemotherapy, and she just had to do radiation. Believe me, when I am, surrounded by family today, in the midst of all the Thanksgiving celebrations, in the back of my mind, I'm going to be very, very appreciative and very, very grateful that this journey so far has turned out the way it has turned out. Now, that might be easy for me to say because it's not cancer for me. And, Donna's reactions have been less than stellar sometimes. And, the first week or so, she was pretty upset. And I was trying to understand, the whole idea of like someone telling you that you have cancer. And so, I tried to help navigate her through that as best as I knew how, and I really don't know how. And so, looking at everything in the aggregate, I would say that we both are pretty grateful. The other thing I'm grateful for is, I guess I can safely say that this kind of video edition of the podcast that I'm trying to launch and to see if I can sort of get off the ground has finally come to completion. And I mean, the cameras are set up. In fact, the batteries are charging right now, and I have no excuse over this weekend than to launch episode number 1 of the Gratitude Journal, the video podcast edition. Now I'll have to look in to see whether someone's actually stolen that name. I don't know. I might have to call it something else. But I ride my stationary bike in the basement, which I'm grateful for, that I have all this room in this basement, which used to be Matt's man cave. And then we just kind of started watching television upstairs, and Donna really didn't want to take the steps. And I was kind of worrying about her in the dark, coming down with like a glass of pop or something. And it kind of turned into this place where I have, the business, and I have my big voiceover box where I do my voiceover stuff. And then I have kind of like a product photography space set up. And then I have, the stationary bike with the TV where I watch, various things, training stuff and, just meditation stuff and Dharma talks and, stuff about sports, just a whole potpourri of things. But I also took a corner of that and sort of been devising this into like a video space. So hopefully it looks good. Hopefully it will sound good. I mean, those are the two big things. I've reached out, to our granddaughter, Lauren, who has an amazing channel on YouTube, over 100,000 subscribers. Lauren Midgley is her name. Check it out if you have a chance. She's amazing. She's beautiful. And she's been kind of giving me some pointers and some tips. And so hopefully that will launch. So I'm grateful that I have the space to do it. And I'm grateful that I have, the wherewithal and the gumption at this point in my life to do it. So you're probably saying, why are you doing this? You know what? That's a good question. I don't really know. I think because, one, I'm not afraid of the camera. I mean, I do a lot of on-camera stuff for the radio station. But I think just video being so popular now, and while I really love podcasts, I want to continue to do a audio podcast, I feel like, there's just the added benefit of hopefully getting others to find ways to be grateful for stuff. And in the same way, selfishly, that I can play off that and that I can continue myself to find new and different ways to find the gratitude in, my life. And I said this before, I've referenced this on several occasions. This year in particular has been very tough to do that. I mean, it as a subscriber to this audio podcast that the sheer number of episodes has been down. And yes, things have gotten in the way schedule-wise, but I have really struggled this year. I'm just being honest. I've struggled, a little bit with depression. I've struggled a little bit with, a little bit of apathy. I've been struggling with, just a little bit of, I don't want to call it anger, but just not, my regular sort of slightly half glass full self, even though I've always been mostly glass half empty my life, and then trying to figure out ways to rectify that. That's another journey and another conversation. But it's been tough. This year's been pretty tough. And then, to get the cancer diagnosis and, you look up, to the sky and go, how much more? And then you think, well, as my friend Ron says, why not you? I mean, how are you special? And, he's right. And so I say that to other people too, because, it's good practical, Dharma advice and, Buddhist advice, but it's also just good, things to keep in mind for whatever path you choose. I mean, why can't things happen to you? Are you so quote unquote blessed that nothing can happen to you? No. So I have to remind myself of that when I sort of go down into the depths that, you are not special, and that, while people will say you're special, from the standpoint of like, that could never happen to you. Yes, it could. It very well could. And so I have to continue to remind myself of that. So is that the reason for doing this? I think maybe, I need extra irons in the fire, so to speak, to kind of reinforce the fact that I need to, live in the present, to live in the now, to not be so concerned about all the crap that happened before. And everything that's going to happen down the road hasn't happened yet. And I need to try to find fulfillment right now in this present time amongst all the gunk. And I guess that's the whole reason for doing it. So hopefully that will happen this weekend. And it's kind of scary. It's kind of frightening because you're going to see, wow, he does have a face for radio. And but, in another way, I really don't care. I feel like this is important enough to try to get onto maybe other platforms, and perhaps, that will help or benefit somebody. I guess the other thing I'm grateful for is my family. Now, I know everybody says that, and I say that with a mild amount of trepidation because, lately, I guess I have been finding out that I'm maybe not as skilled amongst large groups of people. We have a large family, a large group of people. And sometimes it makes me a little shaky. And I think I've been feeling that this year. And I've been anticipating holidays and the get-togethers and feeling a little mushy inside about it. Like, if it didn't happen, I wouldn't be crushed. And not that I want something bad to happen. Like, I think it was exactly 11 years ago today that Donna actually felt ill, and we actually spent Thanksgiving Day in the ER, like all day. And we really didn't find out what was wrong with her. But it was one of those situations where, oh my gosh, you realize we just spent all of Thanksgiving Day in a hospital? And while I don't want that to happen, I feel like right now I'm getting like a little bit of butterflies in my stomach, just kind of thinking about just hanging out. And I don't know, it's hard to explain. Having said that, though, I drive past, on the way to take Donna to her radiation, and I pass people who obviously, are struggling with finding a place to live. And you think, well, that person, unless they go to a shelter, probably is not going to have a Thanksgiving dinner tomorrow. And I get to. I mean, I can have several of them if I want them. And then we all get together at my brother's, usually on Thanksgiving evening, and kind of do like the whole dessert. And really, for most of us, is just staying around drinking ale. And so we do all that. So it's a busy day, it's a long day. And I'll squeeze in, hopefully, a visit to my parents who, I'll have to see, at some point between, these events. And so while I'm very, very grateful to have all of this family and all of the good things that are happening to them, including, new family members, which will be showing. In fact, our niece Taylor, heck, we might not even get through the pumpkin pie today before, her girl, makes her presence known into the world. So it's one of those things where just a lot is happening. A lot is happening with, all of my siblings and their kids. And sometimes the whirlwind and the chaos of it just overwhelms me. I don't really know any other way to put it. I don't know if you feel that way sometimes about getting together with family or just large groups of people. Sometimes maybe the need to perform, and maybe you're not good enough. It's weird. It goes into areas that I'm not really even sure what they are. I'm probably figure it out at some point over an IPA later tonight, I suppose. I don't know. But that being said, I am grateful for all of them. I'm grateful that I have a large family and a large connected family. And, Donna feels comfortable for the most part around them. And, she's loved, and it's good. It's all good. The other day at radiation, this couple walked in, and I've kind of seen them a couple of times because when you go to radiation, you go every day, like Monday through Friday, and we had to go last Sunday because we weren't going today because of Thanksgiving. And, you see the same people, like you get the same time for the most part, and you see the same people. It's just like a cavalcade of people who are just coming in, doing their 15 minutes, and then they're leaving. And, you kind of not get to know them, but the faces. And sometimes this couple shows up and they seem like nice people. Like they seem like down to earth. Like the husband, who is the one who's getting radiation, is a little self-deprecating. He wears his Cleveland Browns stuff. And so we've had like these minor chit chats. And sometimes I think like, if we knew each other like at another time place, I would imagine that maybe we could be pals or buddies. You never know. And then it hit me that, driving away, like December 5th or December 6th, which is, the last session. I mean, the chances are good. Like, I will never see that couple again. Like, our paths may never cross. And I got to thinking during my walk today, how many times during your life where you encounter people who, like, they do you a solid, or they are nice to you, or you have a chance to help somebody, whereas you may not have had a chance to help that person before. And it's like almost like these little minute, like, explosions of relationships happen at like this instantaneous time, and then all of a sudden they just like evaporate, like they go away. And like, what are we to make of these things? And I just thought a lot about that on the walk today, because I know throughout my lifetime I have come across these kinds of instances where people, like, they make an appearance in your world and then they go out of your world. And then, for a while it was kind of depressing me a little bit. Like, what am I to make of these? And I think in this moment of gratitude on Thanksgiving Day, I think I'm not supposed to make anything of it. I mean, maybe there's some deeper meaning about it. I know probably movies have been made about that, and time-space dimensions and, people that you never thought you would meet and you do. And not that there was anything marvelous or great or, that kind of thing, but you just get a sense like, our meeting at this moment was for some reason, and then maybe it was for no reason. And maybe that's good enough. Like, I should soak up that experience in those minutes as they are presented to me, and then just let them kind of float away and not be too attached to them. I mean, theoretically in my head, that's exactly what I should do. But I know that that's not always the case. And so I would say today, for these little moments that, the shared laughter, or, the gentle touch, or the cool bear hug, or, just like, someone else's cooking that seeps into your taste buds and you just go, wow, I can never make anything like that. I mean, I think that we should just soak up those things and just let them go. So I'm making myself feel better about this little bit of neuroses that I'm feeling about being around everyone today. So hopefully that worked. And maybe that'll work for you too. I don't know, but here's my last final wish. I hope someone brings pecan pie. I like pumpkin pie, but really pecan pie is the bomb. I mean, when I taught school, I would, sneakily get students to bake pecan pies and bring them in because I just love pecan pies so much. And so I'm hoping secretly that, there's a Christmas ale today somewhere, and that there's a pecan pie slice somewhere. So in your world, I'm hoping that you have a great Thanksgiving, and that you find new and exciting things to be grateful for. I will give you information about episode number 1 of the video podcast, and I'm hoping that you have a safe and relaxing day, especially if you're on a journey. And thank you for downloading and listening to another edition of the Gratitude Journal podcast.